Listen, I'm half asleep. Please forgive me. We arrived. We haven't stopped talking. And I'm telling you myself all the time. It's quite boring. Hi, everybody. How nice to see you.
Hello.
I've never been here before.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be here because you're very close to New York, but you really do have your own personalities. You're warm and nice. New Yorkers are not always nice. I'm one, so I know. I'm not going to knock it because that's the way I got along in the business. You have to be a little oomph to get along in the business. So what is it? What the heck do you want to? There's nothing you don't know about me.
Okay, I'm Spike Bark, and I'm going to ask Diahann some questions. But first, for those of you who may not know her biographies or autobiographies, the first one was Diahann. It's fabulous. The Legs Are the Last to Go. She's still got great legs. Another great one. So 2 autobiographies. Let me just briefly run through what this amazing human being has accomplished. At 50...
excuse me.
Yes.
I am not recommending that you buy a book. They were written when I was younger and sillier and less informed. So that's his push. I'm not pushing.
At 15, she was modeling for Ebony. At 19, she was on Chance of a Lifetime, won $1,000 4 weeks in a row, and played Cafe Society. Also, at 19, first film, Carmen Jones, directed by Otto Preminger. At 19, first Broadway performance, House of Flowers with Pearl Bailey. And it just goes on and on. At 27, she wins a Tony with No Strings on Broadway. 1968, Julia, Golden Globe, Best Actress. And it still holds up. If you saw the first couple of episodes yesterday, it's amazing. And then in 1985, Dominique on Dynasty. So just an extraordinary thing for any person, any performer to accomplish. For a woman, for a black woman, it's amazing. So I want to ask Diahann a couple of questions, one of which is, what is the difference in how you prepare for a play, for a film, for a TV show, and for a concert?
It has so much to do with where you're going to do the work. If it's in the theater, and also it depends on the part, and it depends certainly on.
Could you use the mic?
Oh, I'm sorry. You get tired of these on television. You don't have to worry about them. So nice guy stands up there and he points it down to you. Get lazy on television. Anyway, so I've had some wonderful opportunities. They were some of them groundbreaking, which made me very happy, and I really and truly must thank my mother and father for raising me in a totally integrated world, so that there was so much out there that I had to really learn about how discourteous, rude, and mean and bad we can be to each other. And so when I was offered Julia, I thought I was going to have the most wonderful time, but it was important, and those of you who remember it, it was important because it was giving us a thought that we didn't do often enough towards our relationship with others. And before I knew it, we were conquering something racial again, which is, I really was hoping for something else. But I'm very happy that I did have the opportunity to help us all to look at ourselves and to see if we think we're doing it right. And if not, then why not apply ourselves as best as we can, I'm just an actress, as best we can, to help us to learn how to be together. We better hurry up before they take this whole damn thing away from us. And there is no world. But anyway, so not to get too depressing.
So what's the difference in, or is there a difference in preparation for a live concert, for doing a play, for doing TV, and for doing a film?
Well, as you might think, a live concert, you've got to, you can rehearse in if you wish inside, but you've got to go out to rehearse it before you take it to the audience. Preparing for anything is time-consuming, filled with everyone who disagrees or agrees with you. But it's necessary to have the kind of work so that you can put your point of view without too much bother. You can put it on stage in front of an audience who wants to see this piece, and you know they do. Give them the enjoyment they want and the entertainment that they want. And how do you do that? It depends very much on how you see the part. I don't know. I can't give you I mean, whatever it is, once you have it in your hands, and then it's in your heart and your head, you're off and running.
And for a film?
It's the same. You have to dig down with whatever. And it's nice to meet people who are familiar perhaps with the characters that are part of what you're doing, or just film people who know how to help you with this thing called film.
So what was it like working with Pearl Bailey in House of Flowers?
It was much easier to do the parts that I just told you.
Can you elaborate?
No. You don't have the time or the money for me to say that long.
It'll be the third autobiography.
She was a brilliant talent who, I don't know how old she was when she went into the business. I'm referring to Pearl Bailey now. But she definitely became totally consumed by herself. And it's a good thing that she did. She would never have lasted in the United States of America with that kind of self-involvement and talent. You couldn't take your eyes off of her on stage, and she wasn't doing anything but this and moving very slowly. She was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And we liked each other immediately. I want that to be true because I saw what she needed, and that was total attention. If you gave her that, she was a happy camper. But one day I made a mistake. I brought my mother and father to the theater to meet her, and she said, "I didn't know you had a mother and a father." She said, "I'm planning to adopt you." And I said, "It's a good thing you talked to me about it now." But we really did love each other. And if I was able to be alone with her for a few minutes, I tried to make it as profitable as possible because she did want to hear. But she had listened for such a long period to people who worshipped her to the extent that they were almost of no use to her. She couldn't learn anything from them. But anyway, it was a good time.
And what was it like working with Richard Kiley and No Strings?
Incredible. So many of you don't even know the name, Richard Kiley. Once again, we were breaking down the walls again. I was excited to do this musical with this beautiful man who had this beautiful voice and very talented. And then I realized we were breaking down another wall. Those damn walls were everywhere. But we both had, I think, a mellow and educated take on what we wanted to do, what we had to do, and how we could do it so that each person in the audience could remain comfortable with something like a racial lesson while learning. That's really what he was very good helping us to put that together in our lives. Do you have any idea what the hell I'm talking about, or am I just babbling on? Just say to me, what? You know. Anyway.
Speaking about tearing down barriers, can you talk about how you integrated the 20th Century Fox hairdressing outfit?
Oh my God. Oh, wait a minute. What year was that?
It was early on, and you talked about the makeup department. And
I once again was not seeking another wall, but there it was. I went to, this was a film, and what film was this? Was this Carmen Jones? No,
it wasn't Carmen Jones.
Claudine?
No.
Paris Blues?
The most important thing about it was 20th Century Fox. And the most important thing about it is when we went in to be interviewed and discussed with wardrobe and hair and makeup, one of the makeup people said to the head of the studio, I think they called me for a couple of days, and I wasn't going to go in to talk to anyone except the head of what we were doing, because it involved a change. And the hardest thing to do is talk to someone as rich as 20th Century Fox about having perhaps another point of view about something that they did very well. This was, I think it's 2 different films of it. So we had the meeting, and this young lady confessed why she could be dismissed from the meeting, and that it really was not that important. She knew what she was doing, because years ago she had a film and she had to make up a person by the name of Lena Horne. So naturally she knew all the things to be done for me. And I said, really? Okay. Do you put the same makeup on Betty Davis that you put on, I don't know, Joan? Good. Good, and I needed you then too, because I was very angry and I didn't want to show it. And she said, so what's the problem? She was very pleased with the makeup job that I did for her. I said, because you did her a makeup job. What you're going to do for me is a makeup job. We're not going to stand here and find old Max Factor things that she used 100 years ago, because she is Black American and I'm a Black American. That is much too silly, immature, and without any international knowledge about people. When you ask me to do that, no, I have no interest in looking at the makeup that you used for Lena. And we're going to do something really nice. We're going to make up some makeup for Diahann. And then you can show it to someone else, and they'll be very angry and tell you, don't do that again. Each person deserves, if nothing else, something that personalizes who they are with what they're trying to do. And it was an idea that had never occurred to her. And she had been at 20th Century Fox in the makeup department for 11,000 years. But we became friends. The only way to walk through this kind of territory is to become friends. And she said, forgive me, I never thought about it. I said, it's really not business for you, if I may say so, until you do think about it. We've grown now. We're not saying, let her take that dress because so-and-so died, and we can use the dress. Something that is for that actor. And we had a lot of those discussions at 20. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I loved musicals, and I couldn't believe that 20th Century Fox had nothing in their wardrobe, their makeup, to accommodate me. And so I went home and I cried. And, what is it? We're not trying to insult you. I said, no, you're not insulting me. You're insulting yourselves. That's the kind of training. You're satisfied with that. And you probably are a pain in the ass to 20th Century Fox as well. We have to do this like we're doing a movie. Real actors, real people. I turn around and so it was wonderful once we got started. It was just wonderful. Anyway, there's so many stories like that. They, after a while, become very boring. But when you think about them and you remember some of the moments of it, it's very gratifying. It makes you feel kind of wonderful about us as folks. That's all we are as folks.
Okay, so when you were performing at the Plaza, singing, I read that when you wanted to sing an Oscar Brown song, Brown Baby, the Plaza said, please don't sing that song. Can you talk about that?
There was a very young man running the Persian room, which was the she-ha-ha room in New York at that time. And it was considered wonderful that I had decided to come with them. I was primarily a part of the Broadway theater scene. And so the place was packed every night, and he said to me one night, it's just wonderful what's going on, and I thank you for coming in to do this. And he said, do you know that song that you do that Oscar Brown Jr., that was his name, wrote, we'd like to know, I love the difficult subjects takes it, we'd like to know, management would like to know if you could remove the song. I said, I will remove the song if you explain to me why you would like the song removed. And he said, oh, well, we, thought it was obvious that I said, you don't want to talk about brown babies? They're really rather innocent, I mean, what is it that, and so I said, I could sing White Baby. I could sing Asian Baby. I could do Mexican Baby. I did a lot of babies we could talk about, because that's where we all start, this thing called baby. And, he said, if you're going to be difficult enough, I'll tell you how difficult I can be. I can go home. You work this out on your own. Anyway, eventually, they talked to someone, I guess I'm so leery. They talked to someone about the engagement, and we had a lot of articles in all kinds of newspapers, and I was happy for everybody that something happened that made their page open, and they had a new thought to deal with. And I don't know, I just think that's one of the most positive circumstances of my life, my professional life, as well as my private life. Yes. Was that the question?
That was the question, and that was the answer. Do you read reviews of your performances?
I did maybe about 25, 35 years ago. But if it's a person that I'm aware of their mind, who they are, and that they know what they're talking about, and it's something that they obviously have a point of view, oh yeah, I will read it. But for the most part, it's just so difficult for any of us to fit into the same clothing about a part. Stage, screen, television, whatever. So, no, I don't do that now unless I know the person and who they are, what they are.
And the reviews matter to you? Does it affect your performance or the way that you perform?
It depends on, the review matters to me depending on if it's someone that I respect what they have to say, how they thought. Yes, then it matters to me, but most of the time I don't read them really.
I'd like to ask you about some of the people that you've worked with. If you could comment on what Otto Preminger was like to work with.
Of course I can. The thing that I think no one is prepared for. Listen, when I start boring you, just say good night. I started working with Otto Preminger. I think, was there a picture before? Anyway.
It was Carmen Jones.
I don't think this was Carmen Jones. And we were going to do this picture in Louisiana. What is it? No.
Or Sundown?
It's not a.
No, those came later.
Sundown. It might have been. Was that in New Orleans? I don't remember. Anyway, the cute thing was that I was working at the plaza, and his offices were across the street on Fifth Avenue, and he called and asked if we could have a little meeting before I went over and we talked about it. And I said to him, I think it would be wise to look into the wig situation, because we're going to a place where the weather is ridiculous as far as making films, because it will be the cause of your having to stop when you're trying to match a hairstyle to something you may have done 2 days ago, because you can't depend on the weather to allow you to have that kind of freedom. And he said, I wouldn't allow anyone to tell me what to do about my picture and so on. And I said, I'm so glad you said that, because I'm so tired. You find somebody else, please, too. And he said, no, I want you to do the film. So we went to do the film, and I think it was my first day of shooting, and the weather was very like what we had in here today. And I think there were some cameramen who had worked with people who had extremely curly, or maybe kinky, or maybe too straight. We'll learn to be less self-conscious, I think, about our hair as we get older. But I do love it when people say, may I touch your hair? It's in a window around the corner on 59th Street. Go and spend the whole afternoon with. Anyway, so we are working now. The whole company is in New Orleans, and and I'm waiting because I know it's going to happen. I'm standing on the top of this hill, and we had to run down. So we did it, didn't work. We had to go back to do it again. And then Otto started yelling, "Hairdresser! Hairdresser!" And I said, "Just be quiet, Diahann Carroll." So he said to me, "I'm giving you you and the hairdresser go into that room. I'll give you 10 minutes to pull yourself together." I said, "You're wasting your time." He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Remember I came to see you one day when we were both in New York, and I asked you if you were prepared for all kinds of hair in all kinds of weather." And he said, "You know, my wife has beautiful hair." I said, "I know, that's all you've got. My wife has beautiful hair. Give her the damn role." Let me go home. Anyway, he said, "What are you talking about?" So we sat down, we spent quite a bit of time talking about the fact that it really is his responsibility to understand what he is trying to put on film and how it can be done and why. So he said, "Cut, that's it for the day." And because of the rain, we had these huge cranes. And it was a very expensive day. And I apologized to him. I told him from my point of view, I was sorry that that he had to meet this new situation in his life in this way. And he said, yeah, this is one of the most expensive days on this film. Just think what you could have saved if we had a little lunch there on Fifth Avenue a few months ago. But nobody was going to tell you how to do your film. So now I've given you all the information that I have about one of the most interesting and expensive things that will come into your film life, and that's called hair. You had a lovely time. And no one really forgave me until they found out Otto Preminger was a creator and a sensible man. If you're doing something and you're trying to work with someone who only works out of ego, we couldn't have had that exchange. So I was happy about that.
Speaking of ego, can you talk about how you met Marlon Brando?
Did I meet Marlon? Where did I meet Marlon?
At a party.
Where?
It was a long time ago, and he made a move on you, and you didn't appreciate the move, and then he sent you some books.
Oh, you're right. This was in California. You know, there's something I do accept, and it's going to sound very vain, but I'm happy about it. If you're an attractive woman in my profession, you're going to be approached by 100 men. It's meaningless. You just have to really figure out who is worth your time and your whatever. It's not, it sounds so woo, you know, when you're talking about it or it's in the paper, and it ain't nothing really. You know, until you find out who you are. Both of you have to find out who you are. And if it's nothing, it's nothing. It's the same as driving a bus. So, almost. Yes, so, why did he call to have dinner? What was it? I'm trying to remember how we got to this place where we were. But there were 4 of us leaving some sort of event, and I think he said, can we have dinner or something? And I really couldn't. I had something to do. But I do remember this. We walked to the door, we were leaving, all of us, and he hit me on my rump. Oh. And I slapped the out of him. That was a good feeling because we became friends. We're not just objects of, doesn't she have cute tits or whatever. And it is my pleasure to teach that to people who deserve that. He was a smart man. There was no reason for him to walk around in the world looking at just people's breasts and they buy a pair and put them someplace with them. Anyway, he was very, very helpful. And I think we understood, both of us. He was an Easterner, as I recall. And I don't think anything unkind developed out of that, as I recall. Right.
What I'd read was that he had sent you a package of books.
Yes, he said to me, you should get out of this business. You're too opinionated. And you need to go back to New York, where you don't belong in California. California's all about tits. But he sent a box of some of the most incredible structural teachings of drama coach and also music. And I realized that he had read everything there was to read, and I appreciated a human being like that who was willing to share that. That's all I really remember about it. Did I do something bad? No. Thank you.
So, in discussing Hollywood and their fascination with the female body, did you run into...
My fascination?
No, their fascination. Did you run into Me Too experiences when you were auditioning for different roles or talking to directors about different roles in film?
And how do you mean Me Too experience?
The Me Too movement, where women have been coming forward and saying that in order to get certain roles they had to sleep with the director, the producer, Weinstein, etc.
It was a much more pathetic situation than it is today, because truly there were, you know, I think you've probably gathered this by now. I came from a very strong, beautiful woman, and she would say to me, "You were afraid? Why were you afraid? And let's figure that out. You went there like you were supposed to do." And so what? So I'm just taking this out of the air to tell you that's the kind of lady that I dealt with, and thank God I did. But where was I?
Dealing with Hollywood producers and directors and their fascination with women, and rather than their acting talent.
Sometimes the two things. Listen, forgive me when I stop and say, "Where am I?" It's going to happen to you too. It's going to be, and I'm trying my best to hold on to it as long as I can, because, and when you have very strong relationships like those I obviously had with my mom and my pop, it interferes with your sense of holding on to thoughts and so on and so forth. Men and women in showbiz, by now, if you're past the age of 21, you must be so tired of hearing about men loving to grab a woman, and she's thinking, "Oh, I don't want him to do this. However, it might be beneficial to me in some way." There's nothing, we're not doing anything new. What we have done, I think, is allow some women to come forward and say, "Yes, yeah, it happened, you know." And it's going to continue to happen, because that's the way men and women operate with each other. Once the light is off of it again, we will do that. Again, I see a man coming down the hall, and if women very often do not want to admit this, but something inside me says, "Oh my God, look, isn't he beautiful?" And I'm not ashamed of that. I'm very happy that I know what I find very appealing. However, it's how we handle it, and we're growing. Women are allowing themselves to say, "I can become a little dalliance for this man, and it will become beneficial to me, to my career." And so and if they feel that way, that's their prerogative. That's their choice. But they cannot then come back next Thursday and say he was bad and mean, and I really think he's terrible, and I want him thrown out of. That's not fair. That's just not fair. But I think we have to think it through, all of us. You know, we want to know, we're not quite that naive. We certainly know how to say, "Don't do that. I'll kick you right where it hurts." And that's meant to be mean, because what he has just done to you is mean. So you can retaliate. But I think we have to, you know, we respond just like any other animals. Some animals, they have husbands and wives and families, and some they don't over there, and they prefer it, whatever. But it's nothing so unusual about it. I just wish we would take away this feeling that isn't she an awful person? This girl that allowed this man, oh, she's terrible. Yeah, probably so a lot of your other friends and relatives. But it is your responsibility to handle it immediately. And that goes for men who are, someone grabs them or something and they don't like it, pick up the telephone and call somebody and find out what to do about it. If you don't like it, first you have to be honest with yourself. Do you like it? Is it something you can use and you're going to use it? If not, go call and say, I need a lawyer or whatever. It's not that complicated, really. What did you ask me, darling?
I'd like to know what you thought. You worked with Miles Davis.
I was his neighbor and for years, and I loved him deeply after I realized that he was a frightened man in many ways, and angry. Those two things, it's very hard to work around those. But when I explained to him how I like to operate with men in the profession, as well as men outside of the profession, and that I admired him very much, we started listening to music together right here on, oh, where am I? No, this is Maryland. I think
Move to New York.
8th Avenue is
right over there. It's not too far.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people who don't believe that we sat around in the afternoon. He was a marvelous chef. God, watching him cook, prepare, and teaching me how to do it. I was not a marvelous cook, but and telling him that what I do is just as important as what he does. So don't distract me with something stupid, like touching me when you know I don't want to be. And he said, haven't heard that one before. And we became friends, and I'm very happy to have known him. I'm so sorry that he had many uncomfortable situations in his life.
And what was Andre Previn like to work with?
Incredible. They're geniuses. You know, it's you go in, you sit down, and they'll show you what they do. It may take them an hour or two, but they have to. It's incredible stuff. I mean, not everybody can do that. Sometimes it's overwhelming, and sometimes you're able to discuss it with them, and you do become friends, and you learn from them, and they learn from you. I think Miles had a problem with he was a very good-looking man, and so he had the problem that we were just discussing, men and women. A woman walks through the door, and he thinks there's a certain behavior that goes with that, and if you think that, then I'm leaving. But you have to be clear about yourself. Anyway, okay. Andre Previn, he did it all. He was a brilliant conductor, and I did a couple of movies. I can't remember what the title of the films, but it was wonderful to go into the orchestra room as they were recording and listen and watch him pull it apart and put it back together again. I had a lot of good experiences like that in show business.
So there were some films where you sang, and then there were some situations earlier on where they dubbed you. What did that feel like for Cameron Jones and Porgy?
It was fabulous because that contract was made before I walked on stage. I didn't walk on stage and say, do you want me to sing? We had to, and if they were using the absolute classical key of the piece, for example, Carmen Jones was written in such and such, and I told them I didn't want to sing that high because it was not good for my voice and so on and so forth, and I still today think that was a wise thing to do.
Can you talk about meeting JFK?
I could.
Would you?
There's nothing in it that's new. It's the same old thing. He was another man who didn't realize that females were his equal, just because they were females. But the power that he exhibited, that's what frightened me. I really didn't know that people could do that without feeling they had to pay for it in some way. It made me very uncomfortable. And I was going on a flight, flying back to New York, and two gentlemen came into the airport. I don't mind telling you this at all, it's like a bad movie. And they said, "Could come with us, please." And why? Well, the president would like to, whispering into. And what does he want? What does the president? So I talked to his assistant, and he explained to me that I should not worry about being in the play that I was in. What was it? It will come to me. Because the president had canceled my appearance. Now you must remember, I was raised by a very strong woman. I said, "You did what?" He said, "Don't worry, it's he's taking care of it." And he called and he's canceled your appearance. You don't have to look up. He said, "You can't do that to me. No,
Oh my God.
I won't have that." And of course, I'm flattered that the president wants me to come back and do this performance of it, but he can't do that without talking to me. He can't do that. That's my right as a human being. And so this gentleman, he said, "Do you want me to tell him that?" I said, "You must tell him that. And you must tell him he must never make that mistake again, not with anyone." And so John Kennedy didn't speak to me a lot. He didn't. I think she liked me better than he liked me, Jackie. They were very, very glamorous. It was a world of something you read about in fairy tales, but a lot of pain, a lot of. But basically, I think they were good people, nice people.
You talked about in one of your autobiographies about how when you were in a film that had an all-black cast, you didn't have a contract for 5 films with that studio. It was a one-shot. And you also talked a little bit about typecasting, and that brings up Dynasty. Can you talk about how you broke the mold in Dynasty?
No, we have that mold broken all the time. We just have a new version of it right now. What are you calling her now? Empire. The show is Empire.
Cookie.
And her name is Cookie. That's another version of the same thing. But it's fun. It's fun. It's fun to be bitchy. Believe me, it is really fun. It gets a lot of, releases a lot of tax.
How did you get the role in Dynasty?
Oh, how did I get the role on Dynasty? How did I get the role on Dynasty?
I'd read that you went to a dinner party that
Yes, but
Aaron
I'm trying
Spelling
to.
was having.
I'm thinking that Aaron invited me to the party, but I don't quite know why, because nothing had been settled about Dynasty. But he did stand there and say to this group of people, "This is Miss Carroll, and she's going to be a part of that." I didn't know that he had made up his mind to do so, but it was fabulous. That's another area of breaking through, and you have to be very careful. That's the kind of success that is undoable. They were it, and the thought of being a part of it on that level was very, gratifying and made me very happy to be thought of that way. But we had situations, and because of who they were, they always wanted to sit down to talk about it. And that's how they won every battle. They would talk about it.
What's the most, of all the performances in the different genres that you've been in, what was the most depressing experience you had?
Oh, read that again, please.
What was the most depressing performance experience you've had?
Performance experience. There's so many different kinds of depression and disappointment. I mean, there are times when I've been very disappointed in myself. That doesn't mean that the audience didn't give me a great feeling of that they enjoyed it. You know, we don't always enjoy it on the same level. The audience and the depression.
For instance, Odetta, when I talked to Odetta, she told me that the most depressing thing for her was when a performance was canceled because she had all this energy that was built up and no place to put it.
Take it, yeah. Throw a dinner party or something, because you got to get rid of all of that stuff. Call it, come over, let's have some food and a nice wine. Because you go crazy holding it. Very often when you've prepared to a certain degree, you cannot sleep at all until that is gone. And I had some nice friends, so we enjoyed ourselves.
So, what was the most exhilarating experience you had in performance?
Oh, that's very difficult to answer. I've been doing this since 1950 something, right? And I'm happy to tell you that during those years, most of it was successful and gratifying, and I'm sitting here looking at you at 83 years of age, and I want you to know that I had a good time, and I thank you for your support. I hope I handled it like the kind of business that would make all of us happy to be human beings. That's what I hope. Not just cute little things running around on the screen, but that we had certain responsibilities to, you know what I'm saying.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much for listening to me. Listen, I've been up here quite a while. He's just asking, do any of you want to ask a question or two? And I'll leave that up to you. I know that I have to go back to my other job.
Thank you, Ms. Carroll. What was it like working with Dorothy Dandridge?
Dorothy was so beautiful. You spent the first hour just looking at her and saying,
Yeah.
But, and I love beauty, and I think there's a couple of women in the industry that found out that I took a moment or two before they were able to. But I liked her so much because she worked so hard. Oh, she wanted it so much. She really did. And to watch her work, it got better and better and better and better. But I think she worked too hard. She really did. But she was lovely. She was really lovely. She was a little devil, too. Nice.
Thank you for being here today. And you look lovely.
Thank
and
you.
you are a lovely person.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
I love you on Julia, but I also loved you in a film called Claude D. You were outstanding. Can you tell me about your experience and what it was like to be going to the Oscars and be nominated as Best Actress?
To going to, did you say?
The Academy Awards as
Oh.
Best Actress nominee.
Oh. What year was that?
74.
Yeah.
Claudine was 74,
1974.
and you got nominated for Oscar for Best Actress.
James Earl Jones.
I can tell you when I learned that I'd been nominated, I just cried. I didn't expect it. You know, it's what we call, that in those days we call a black film. So everything was done like studios, and when I learned those expressions, first I thought they just painted the walls black. Everything was black, but no, they were talking about people, and it was unbelievable. I mean, I just had to go in my room and be on my own for a while. I wanted to do good work, and I felt that I had done good work because there's so many people who did not want me to do good work. Why was that? They say, you know, she's cute, so you have one or the other. She can't have good work and be cute. So I knew that not everybody was pulling for me. But that was an overwhelming. I don't even know the words to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take one more question, man in the back. Yep.
If you had an opportunity to work again with any leading man that you've worked with, living or dead, which one would you choose to work with again?
It depends on the material. I can't do with a brilliant black comedian a black film if I'm going to do a black film, because he's not a you know, you're either a dramatic actor or you're not, and that's hard to.
So I mean, if it's a drama or if it's comedy, is that what you?
Yes, that's two different kinds of connection to your body, your mind, your heart, your.
Well, let's say a dramatic, seriously dramatic role.
Would I rather work with a dramatic actor, or are you?
No, which actor? It was a dramatic film. Which actor?
Who is your favorite?
Why does there have to be a favorite? There was so few. We were just glad to see each other. You know, it was really kind of wonderful. Oh God, you're in this too. It was great. We have Sidney Poitier in his beginning there was incredible, because no one in Hollywood knew any black actor who did that, who had that kind of laid back. He was not brought up in the United States of America, and it's all there. Very much for your background is always in your work. We can tell how secure or insecure, whatever. A black comic you asked me about, right?
No. Not necessarily, no. You answered my question, really.
Yeah, I hope so. I don't.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You've made my year. Thank you.